closer to you? All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our final Behind the Baton of the season. This is our last Behind the Baton for the year, and it is a great pleasure to welcome back to Springfield our soloist for this concert, Aubree Oliverson. So welcome. And some of you know that last night she played a little recital for some of our donors, and that was fantastic. We'll sit in a second, but I think. And then we went through the concerto today, and we've got rehearsal tonight. It's a busy week. So welcome back to Springfield.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so we will talk about you. That's what this is for. It's our chance for you all to get to know our soloist a little bit better. And many of you probably remember that Aubree was a last-minute replacement last year for the Sibelius violin concerto. Like last minute, like the week of the show kind of thing. You flew in from London and knocked our socks off, and we were so, we just loved working with you so much. I did what I rarely do, which is to bring a soloist back 2 years in a row. So we're really glad that you wanted to come back and play with us again.
Of course, I had a great time. And
Good.
What a warm audience here.
We have a good warm audience. All right, but not all of you maybe remember everything about Aubree, and we've got so many different things we can talk about, but why don't you just give us the thumbnail sketch of who you are?
Sure. Okay, so like you said, my name's Aubree Oliverson. I grew up in Utah. I was born there, and my mom's from Seattle, my dad's from Idaho. But I grew up in Utah, and then when I was 15, I moved to Los Angeles to go to school at the Colburn School. And people always ask me if that was a crazy transition from Utah to downtown LA. And it was honestly okay because the Colburn dorms are so small, and there were 24 high school students living there also. It's a college, but there's a high school program.
So you were in a pre-college program?
Yeah, exactly. Pre-college program, and then I stayed there also for my bachelor's degree and continued trying to build a solo career. And then I went to Vienna to study with a different teacher, Boris Kushner, for a year, and that was during COVID. And then I went back to Colburn for 2 years to do my artist diploma, and I just kept doing auditions and trying to build a career, and then things started to take off, and now I'm doing this full time, and it's always been my dream, and I just love it. So you've been busy this year. You've been kind of all over the world, all over the United States. You were in Thailand. I was in Thailand. I was in Charleston and Southern California and Princeton, New Jersey. All these different fun places.
And you've been playing concertos and then also solo recitals and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, it's mostly been concertos, which I love. I absolutely love. So.
Have you done the Tchaikovsky this year?
Yeah, I did it last spring.
Spring. So what concertos have you been playing during this season?
Oh boy, let's see. I did Weinberg Concertino. I did Dvorak. Doing Barber soon. I did Beethoven. There were so many. I can't remember.
That's a lot of different. And then Tchaikovsky, of course.
And the Bruch, and the Korngold.
That's a lot of concertos.
Yeah.
That's a lot of memorization.
And Mozart 5 also. There was in January I had 3 concerto weeks back to back with 3 different concertos, and it was across the states like this. It was crazy.
Eventually you'll get to the place where when orchestras call, you'll say, "Well, I'm doing a different one that week. Can you do this one?" Because I get that now and then, but you always seem willing to do whatever we ask.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So let me ask, I'm going to go back a year to when you came and joined us for the first time, because I didn't ask you this question before. What is it like to get the call when you hadn't probably even heard of the Springfield Symphony or thought about it, and then suddenly the week of the concerto, an agent calls, says, hey, can you do the Sibelius Concerto this weekend? What goes through your mind? What do you do when you get that call?
Yeah, great question. The very first question I ask myself is, am I in shape enough? Because if I take even 2 or 3 days off, I notice a difference. And so, and if I take more than that, then I need that amount of time to get the same, just flexibility and speed and muscles and everything back. So that was my first thought, am I in shape? And I was actually on a mini vacation at the time, but I had been practicing. And then my second question I asked myself is, do I think I can get this piece in time to my very highest level? And so I had to play through it and kind of see how familiar is this. It had been a while, but I felt confident I could do it, and those are the only 2 things I care about. Am I available, and can I do it to the best of my ability? And then there's no question. I always accept everything I can to try to build my career.
Does it change the way that you approach? I mean, I assume, obviously you knew we had this gig coming up for a year and your other concertos. Do you have a progression that you go through as you're getting ready, so that 2 weeks out I'm doing this, 1 week out I'm doing this? What's your normal progression in getting ready for a concerto performance like this?
It's a great question. It depends on the piece. It depends on how many times I've done the piece. So if it's a piece like, if it's a new concerto for me, for example, I will schedule a performance of it, even just with piano accompaniment, months in advance, just to get it out of the way and not have the very first performance be the professional concert. And then I'll come back to it a couple times so it feels seasoned, we call it. For a piece like this, I've done it many times, but I always schedule a practice performance before the actual performance. Even if, because I never take anything for granted. You never know how a concert's gonna go. And I think for myself, it's essential to have done a performance right before this. So I scheduled one in my hometown, and I played for 50 people, and it was very helpful in preparing for this.
With piano?
With piano.
With piano, yeah.
And I did the same thing for Sibelius. I was actually in Luxembourg at the time, and I didn't know anybody in Luxembourg, but I found a connection, and I scheduled a house concert in Luxembourg to prepare for that Sibelius last year. So I always do that. And then the day before the concert or the day of, I'll go through the piece in my head to make sure I have it intellectually memorized and not just the muscle memory. So those are kind of my 2 main things. And
that's really interesting. I don't know very many other people who do that. I know people who will play it for friends, but to actually set up a performance, what is it about the performance? Does it get you just enough nerves so that are you trying to make yourself find the flaws in your memory, or
exactly.
What's the purpose?
Yeah, all of those things. So sometimes I'll teach a master class and a student will say, I have a hard time with performance anxiety. I get so nervous in front of people that I just fall apart. And then I'll say, how many times, how often do you play in front of people? And they'll say, twice a year. And then it's like, well, of course, you're not used to it. Anybody would fall apart. You have to be comfortable in front of people. And I am actually quite an introverted person, but I've just spent so much time in front of people because I love this music so much that it just becomes easier and easier. And so it's just, I call it staying in shape with my nerves, because if I go too long without playing for people, I lose a little bit of that control over my nerves.
Do you get nervous?
Yeah, every time.
What does that mean for you? Because it means different things for different people. What happens when you get nervous?
My hands get cold. And I think I have a heightened state of awareness, so I sort of overthink what I'm doing, but it can actually add to my performance if I do it right and if I'm prepared enough. So that's another reason why I do these house concerts, is because when I'm at my best, I'm comfortable, I'm able to forget where I am and just kind of be in the zone and feel it, and that's when the magic comes out. So when I'm nervous, I have a harder time getting into the zone, just because I'm hyper aware. Right,
yeah. Let's talk about memory for a minute, because you said something that I think is really significant and really important.
Yeah.
When the audience sees a soloist like you, and when you see Aubree this weekend, this concerto has a lot of notes.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I were talking about that this afternoon. It's so many
You
notes.
don't even hear it all of them sometimes. It
Yeah.
goes so quickly.
And it's
so
long. I mean, it's a big piece. And when we worked this afternoon, with any soloist, we get together before we rehearse with the orchestra and go through the entire concerto. And but you didn't touch music the whole time in the rehearsal, which is a little bit unusual. A lot of soloists, they'll be memorized, but they'll still, when we go through our review rehearsal, but you didn't miss a note at all. And I was thinking about that, and you mentioned that you go through it in your head because you need to make sure it's intellectually memorized as well as in the physicality. So can you, for those who aren't musicians, or even those of us who are, talk about the difference between what you mean between the physical memory and the intellectual memory?
Yeah. So I learned this the hard way when I was a teenager. I think I was 15, and I had practiced the piece so hard and drilled it over and over. And you do one little 2-second section 100 times to get it, and every day. And so it's just part of you. You have it memorized. And then I got up in front of people. It was my classmates. It wasn't anything big, but still. And I forgot where I was. And it really threw me, and I thought, okay, I was so comfortable with this piece. I had it memorized, I thought. So I'm doing something wrong. And that's when I realized you have to do it away from the instrument, because muscle memory can be deceiving, because you practice it over and over and over, and then you get in front of people and you can't always rely on the muscle memory, because you go into your head and like, what's coming next? Do I really know this? I even noticed that at the Little House concert last night, because I was in a new situation, and there was a piece I knew really well, but I thought, wait a second, what's next? And I knew it intellectually, and so I was fine. And so now I'm always sure to do that. And
so when you do that, what do you do to memorize it away from the instrument?
I just think through every single note of the piece and what finger I'm using for every single one.
So this is an interesting thing, because as a conductor, we have to memorize away from the music. I mean, in the sense that we can't play all of the instruments in the orchestra, so we have to do it from the page. And you're talking about kind of doing that the same way. Do you feel like you really know every note, what every note is, or is it sometimes passages that you can sort of recreate in your head?
I go through every single note and where it's placed on the violin.
Yeah.
In the orchestral part, I'll think through the tutis as well a lot of times, and that is more just, I know
the overall
how it goes.
Yeah,
I don't know how I would play it.
Right, yeah.
But for my part, I go through it very specifically, every single note.
That's wonderful. That's amazing, and I think that's really, that's such a discipline that I think is so important. How many concertos do you have in your repertoire? Do you know?
Like 25, 23, 25.
Yeah. That's remarkable. How many new concertos are you learning? I mean, is it every year you're working on new concertos?
Yeah, I would say it depends. This year I only did one new one. I have a brand new one being written, which is going to be cool. Actually, no, I did 2 new ones this season. So.
Are you at the stage where you really will only learn a new one when someone asks you to do it? You're not just learning them for fun, or do you say, "Hey, I've never done this concerto. I'm going to pick it up and start working on it"?
Yeah, this year I chose one to do, and then I was also asked to do one. Those 2 were new. So I think it just depends.
What would be your next concerto that you haven't done?
Oh, good question. I haven't done Prokofiev 1 or Stravinsky or Shostakovich. And I love all of those.
Yeah, those are big pieces, all of them.
Huge,
yeah.
And I mean, there's so many good ones. Philip Glass is good, and Khachaturian is good. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's talk about this one.
Yeah.
Tchaikovsky. We'll talk about this one. This is a wonderful concerto. I mean, I think in some ways it's the prototypical violin concerto. I mean, it's got to be one of the big 3 with Brahms and probably Beethoven. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Mendelssohn and Bruch probably played as much.
Yeah.
But
they're not nearly as big.
Yeah.
Neither Mendelssohn or Bruch are as big as this.
Right.
I mean, you know that better. So, when did you start when were you first aware of the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, and when did you start working on it?
That's an interesting question, because this was actually my first full concerto performance with orchestra.
Was the Tchaikovsky?
Yeah. So I was 13 when I played it, and I think I was 12 when I started. I started with the third movement. So.
Which is a monstrously hard movement. I mean, that's usually the one
Yeah.
that doesn't.
I can't decide which is harder, first or third, but.
You know, when Tchaikovsky wrote this piece, he wanted Leopold Auer to play it.
Yeah.
He was a violin teacher in St. Petersburg.
Mm-hmm.
And Auer said, maybe the greatest virtuoso violinist at the time, said, this piece is unplayable, it's far too difficult. And you started when you were 12?
I didn't sound great on it.
But that's, in some ways, that's the progression of our art form, right? I mean, someone who's the greatest of all time says, this is not doable.
Right.
And then someone does it and shows that it is doable. And then suddenly, not even 12-year-olds, but very advanced, very advanced high school kids are taking up these pieces,
Yeah.
right?
True.
Okay, so you were 12 when you first started learning it, 13 when you performed it.
Yeah, and then I put it away for a long time. Didn't
Uh-huh.
touch it until I was in my late teens.
So that's not that long. So a few years you put it away and then you brought it back out. And so, where does this piece sit for you in the sort of pantheon of all of the violin repertoire that you do?
You mean for me personally?
Yeah, for you personally.
Preferences? Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. This is a complicated question because I had an interesting relationship with it. After putting it away, I had spent so much time on it as a kid, and so many tears were cried over this piece. I just stepped away, and then I heard it sort of played by lots of different people, but in a similar way over and over, and I kind of grew a little bit less fond of it, I'll say. And so I didn't really want to play it as badly as other pieces. And then I got asked to do it specifically, and I realized I could do it in a way that felt refreshing to me, and I didn't have to take time in the exact same place as everyone else did, things like that. And I just fell in love with it all over again, and now every time I play it, I feel like I'm just getting into it. You know what I mean? It's like so new and so invigorating for me. It's like it's become something new, and I think that great art does that.
So what do you bring to the piece?
Ooh, hard question. I feel like that's maybe more for other people to say. But,
Well, okay, that's fair. I mean, that's maybe not a totally fair question.
No, but I think what I try to do in all of my interpretations is step away from performance practice, or performance tradition, I should say, and just be true to the score, be true to what I think it should sound like. And by having that outlook, and by the way, I don't listen to very many recordings when I already know a piece. That's just kind of the way I do things. And by doing that, I feel like I end up finding fresh takes on certain phrase structures and certain things like that. And in general, that's kind of what I aspire to do, is find genuine, honest, refreshing takes on classics. So.
One of the things that was so easy last year when you stepped in at the last minute, and today when you and I went through the piece, is that for me as a conductor, when I work with a soloist, my job is really to support the soloist as best I possibly can. And sometimes, rarely, but it happens, I work with a soloist where I cannot predict what they're going to do because it doesn't make musical sense to me. Doesn't mean it doesn't make musical sense, it means it doesn't make musical sense to me. But with you, with both the Sibelius and with the Tchaikovsky, all of your musical choices make perfect musical sense, even if they might be different than what someone else does.
Thank you, that's a nice comment.
And that makes life much easier for me, much better for me, for sure. And so I like the choices that you make. And I was going to, the follow-up question was, you answered a little bit, which is, do you still listen to other people play it very much? And you said not very much, but are there recordings or people that you, over the years, have especially liked the way they handle Tchaikovsky?
I always think of the Oistrakh recording of this piece. I just love his sound. He has this fat, gorgeous sound for those rich melodies in the first movement and the second movement. And I think of that, and I also think of his recording of Kabalevsky Concerto. For some reason, the second movement of that just is so related to the second movement of this piece. Both Russian composers and stuff. I think of that sound, and then I try to incorporate that a little bit. But yeah, I don't do a lot of listening to different recordings. I know there are a lot of different opinions on whether artists should listen to a lot of recordings or not. There's this camp called Verbier in Switzerland. It's for young soloists, and they chose 8 violinists, and I got to do that. And you had master classes with different violin teachers, and you got to see all your peers play for them too. And I had one friend who said, I listened to he knew every recording that there was on the pieces he was playing. And this other friend who says, I never, ever listened to recordings. And it was interesting. The one who listened to a lot had this gorgeous sound, and I absolutely loved it, but the other one was fascinating to listen to because it felt so unique and so different. And so I thought, I kind of lean towards being, that side of things.
My conducting teacher used to advise us. He said, whether you listen to recordings or not is kind of up to you. But if you listen to recordings, try to listen to as many as possible. What you don't want to do is listen to 2 or 3 one, because
so
that puts that particular idea in your head.
Yeah.
Whereas if you listen to a whole broad range of the recordings, then you're not just being influenced by one particular person's
I totally agree with that.
interpretation or understanding. Can you play a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure.
Let's show the different movements, I think. Why don't you show us just a little bit of the first movement, just to demonstrate? I mean, because it's a glorious movement, and just give us a little bit of your beginning on that.
Okay.
Another great theme.
Yeah, another great theme.
I mean, you could say what you want about Tchaikovsky. He could write a melody. Can you play a little of the second movement? Do you have your mute just to show? Yeah. So the second movement is a canzona, a song, right?
A little song.
He calls it a little song. And it starts with the violin muted. Most people, maybe people don't even know what a violin mute is.
Oh yeah, and there are different kinds, and this one is made of leather. I have a wooden one in there and a rubber one, but I like the leather one the best. The wooden one tends to mute the sound a lot, more than we want, and then the rubber one's for orchestra, doesn't do as much sound. You know, it's better with collective sound, but it doesn't bring the quality that would.
today. You said, and I love this, the second theme, you let the sun come out a little
Yeah,
bit. And
so
take
I
the
take the
mute
mute
off.
off, and here comes the sunshine.
So you can hear the difference between the mute and the non-muted sound. I mean, that's when we talk in music about color, that's it. So you just heard a difference in color. Same notes, same instrument, different color on that sound. You want to give us just a little third movement, just to,
Sure.
just because it's exciting.
Russian folk dance time.
Just a little easy. Thank you for playing those excerpts for us. We could keep talking, but I want to see if anybody has any questions, if anybody would like to ask Aubree. Yes, sir.
Yes, you talked about being in musical shape and having your muscles. I'm guessing that it's in your forearm.
Yeah, I would think.
But you talked about being in musical shape, what exercises you do, and do you exercise outside of music? Do you have a gym membership? Is that counterproductive?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I've heard different things. I think Hillary Hahn said something like she doesn't use weights because the big muscles interfere with the little muscles. I actually did start lifting weights this year, and I feel stronger. I think it's been helpful, but I can't overdo it because then my forearms get tense. So I think it's always a balancing act. There was one time I had a bit of an injury in my left arm, and it was just being strange, and my teacher said, go do some push-ups and see if it helps, and I thought, what? But I think I actually did need to develop some strength, and it did help among therapy, physical therapy that I did, so it wasn't just that. But I do a lot of just exercises on the violin to strengthen, especially my pinky, because everybody's pinky is a little bit weaker than the other fingers, and I need that strength up here, and anytime you land on the pinky. So there's a lot of different exercises you can do. This one's literally called pinky push-ups. And you just add a little bit more weight every time, and I teach this to a lot of students because it's a common problem, pinky strength. And then I'll just practice octaves, and that kind of thing. Good question.
Can you explain to me how that mute thing works?
Yeah.
Because it's behind the bridge, I wouldn't think there'd be any vibration.
So it goes directly onto the top of the bridge.
Oh, on the top of the bridge?
Yeah, and you can push it down.
Oh, okay.
You can push it down a little bit further or have it a little bit higher, but it actually clamps onto the bridge, which reverberates and it changes the sound.
It tones down the vibration or?
Yeah, it changes the vibration just a little bit.
It sounds like it darkened the music.
It cuts the higher harmonics.
Okay.
So putting a mute on any string instruments cuts some of those high harmonics. And if you looked at a spectrograph of the sound, all of the spikes on the harmonic places, when you mute them, those are way tamped down. Some of them disappear
I
entirely.
could tell the difference.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what it was.
It's a great
but I
way
could
to
tell.
Yeah, and for instance, Hammond's Hall, they put a new stage surface on. A year, 2 years ago, I guess it's been now. We're in our second year of it. It used to be a hardwood that looked like a basketball gym floor. Now it's melamine, it's that, kind of flooring material. And it dampens the high harmonics for our strings. The floor, which is not a good thing, incidentally. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's definitely softer in the audience than it used to be, and it's because of this floor material. And one of the things that we found in the orchestra in our rehearsals is when we put mutes on, then it just takes the sound entirely away. So this year, when an orchestra piece calls for mutes, I've just been saying, yeah, don't do it, because it just takes too much out. Now, with this, we're going to do it because that's such an unusual sound, the coloration that we're going for, and it's a little different when the orchestra is accompanying a soloist than when we're playing on our own. But and then the soloist it's also a little bit different because she's standing in a prominent position at the edge of the stage, so her sound is not as impacted by the floor as our string players are when they're sitting in their seats, right above the floor. So, but it's the high harmonics.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Pam.
Can you tell us about your fiddle?
Oh yes, this is a Guadagnini, 1755, made in Milan. I've had it for about 2 years now, and I absolutely love it. Obviously a very old instrument, but still very healthy, and tends to travel pretty well, so.
What version of Tchaikovsky are you going off of?
I am doing the hour cuts in the third movement, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I was like, because I know Henley and all that stuff.
Oh.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I referred to a few different editions, but I think there's not a huge variation between different ones.
Well, you even talked today about what's in the manuscript, so you've seen.
Yeah, I've looked at the manuscript too, but.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were doing master classes for students. Are you teaching somewhere at university? Are you still furthering your studies? And do you have an agent to help you find the gigs that you're wanting to do?
I mainly only do master classes when I go play a concert in an area.
Okay.
So I'm not a traveling teacher or anything. I'm focused on performing right now. And I am not officially in school, but my wonderful teacher of many years, Robert Lipset, is still a huge mentor to me, so.
Will you take a piece to him? If you're doing a new concerto, will you go and talk to him or work with him?
Yeah, if I'm doing a concerto I'm worried about or something, I'll play for him.
Yeah.
How do you travel with your instrument? What's it like to travel? Airplane especially.
Yeah, you'll always just keep it with you. You put it in the overhead, but make sure it's secure and always have an eye on it. And never leave it in a car, ever. And in a hotel, sometimes I don't.
You not leave it in a car for temperature or for theft?
Both.
Oh, both, okay.
Even for 30 seconds to run in somewhere, I never could.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
Did you grow up in a musical family? How did you discover this gift? And did your parents introduce you to the violin?
My dad loved music, didn't know much about classical music, but he taught himself piano. And he went to a friend's violin master's degree recital. And I think he was inspired by that, and we just went out and bought a little violin and found a local teacher. And my mom wasn't a musician, so not a classical music family, but we became one, that's for sure.
Do you have siblings who also play?
I have a little brother and a little sister, and my brother used to play, and my sister still does a little bit, but they do other things as their main occupation.
This mental ability to go over every note in this location of the violin, do you think that is common? Do you think every player could do that, or is this kind of an extra brain thing you got going?
I think in order to play memorized, I think that's a good question, but it seems to be pretty common. when people try it, if they're already able to memorize a piece, I think they can think through it usually. Yeah. I should ask more people that though, because I'm not completely sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that common. I mean, I think probably soloists at your level are probably doing that. I'm not sure it's totally common. One of the things, back when I was teaching at the university, when I would teach graduate theory, we would work on that. That's definitely something that's taught conductors very specifically, is how to study and memorize a score that is without the physicality of it. And so when I would work with instrumentalists who were in the program, we would do that. And it was not a concept that was talked about a whole lot in their studio work. I mean, I don't think it's rare, because I think you have to be thoroughly memorized, it's got to be both physically and intellectually memorized. In terms of how that's done, I'm not sure. You know, I mean, the way you describe it is very much exactly the way a conductor has to kind of go through it.
How was it taught to you? I'm curious.
That's probably the hardest thing that is to teach for conductors is score study. It's a huge topic. I mean, there are books and books and books about it. My teacher was kind of, part of the reason I went to my teacher is because he had one of the best books that was about how to do score study. And one of the things that he really emphasized was to be methodical about it. So you didn't have to do it his way, but you had to develop a methodical way about it so that you could do exactly what you described, which is before the performance be able to, you know, imagine your way through the entire piece. And so, you know, different people handle it differently. There are some people I know who do it from a theory basis, so they do score analysis based on harmony. And then there are other people who do it, I do it based on phrasing, largely. And so, you know, people have different ways to mark their scores. Some people do it by playing, like literally playing every line of every, you know, kind of thing. But the way you describe is very much kind of in that way. So I do think it's a little bit unusual. Yeah.
Have you ever learned a piece that you had never heard at all?
Yes, I have, and I much prefer to hear it first.
Does it really make it harder?
I grew up with the Suzuki method, so I would hear it and then learn it, and it's much easier for me that way. Yeah, it makes it harder if there's no recording, or even the MIDI recording would help. Yeah.
But I think we're always amazed at the speed with which even all the orchestra plays, the strings, it's such fast speed on things. I don't even know how you visualize it hardly, you know, much less reproduce it. So I would assume that if you haven't ever heard it, maybe you have to read it closer, I guess, to get the exact.
Oh yeah, it takes a long time to get it actually in your fingers. It's difficult. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, a couple more.
Oh, can you just tell us a little bit about the score you're doing? I'm unfamiliar with
About the piece that we are doing?
Sure. If you would, please.
Yes, the Tchaikovsky violin concerto. Tchaikovsky, of course, is one of the great late Romantic composers, a Russian composer. And of course, he was a ballet composer. Nutcracker, everybody knows the Nutcracker, but Swan Lake and Sleeping Beauty or his other big ballet scores. He wrote some of the most magnificent Romantic symphonies, his 4th, 5th, and 6th symphonies especially. But he also wrote 2 of the most important concertos, these pieces for orchestra and solo instrument, the violin concerto and his first piano concerto, which we also played this year. So we kind of get to play both of them in the year. And it's a 3-movement work. It's about 35 minutes long. Yeah. First movement's a little bit less than 20 minutes, and then the second movement's fairly short, and then the third movement is 10 minutes probably, yeah.
And big cadenza in the first movement where the violin plays solo without the orchestra in the middle.
Yeah. So it's just one of the magnificent works for violin and orchestra in the entire repertoire. Yeah.
I'm so taken with your body movement and how it agrees with what you're playing.
Oh, thank you.
And you can tell immediately how you feel about the violin.
That's great.
And you're together with the movement. I was in ballet at a very low level, but it means so much to me to see how much you adore and feel so good about what you're playing.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's a very nice perspective to have.
Do you go places when you're in that state?
I don't know. I think there is a zone that I like to be in, and that's when I'm not thinking too much, so I'm in no place at all. I don't know.
Any other? I saw one other hand.
You talked a little bit about the problem with this piece, not problem, but there's just so much performance tradition that comes with it, like the high-tech recordings and all the different things that have been added on years and years after it was composed. What is, you talked about finding your own way of playing it. What do you feel like is your main tool to do that? Is it timing or?
I think timing is huge, so I like to save my time taking for the most important moments and then really go for it. I think taking a lot of time at the end of every phrase and stuff doesn't really work as well. In a lot of pieces actually that are long. So yeah, I try to choose my timing very carefully, and that's one of the biggest ways that I interpret a piece. That's one of the biggest aspects. Yeah.
Do you think about the coloration of the sound too?
Oh, of course.
I mean,
Yeah.
because it's, just having gone through it with you, I mean, there are places where I can tell you're really coloring sounds and.
Exactly. I think about that a lot as well, but sometimes I find that isn't as easy to pick up on for a big audience, way out in the hall and stuff. So timing is maybe slightly more important. I don't know.
Do you have any recordings out of your playing that
I
you
have
do a CD? Or
I have an album coming out in June.
Oh, okay.
It's a live recording of my recent recital at the Aspen Festival, but it's only going to be on Apple Music for a year, and then it'll be out other places. But June. Yeah.
Well, let's all thank Aubree for joining us today. You're very good at this. Thank you. You've shared so much with us. I mean, when you see her on Saturday, think about some of these things because it's profound the way that you play this piece, and it's beautiful, just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm excited for you all to hear this piece. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming during this year of Behind the Batons. Next month is the ballet, so we will not have a Behind the Baton, and then we'll look forward to seeing you in the fall for more Behind the Baton. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Aubree.